And the webinar has started.
Webinar has started, and originally for some of our participants who were on there on the call last time, they're probably thinking, okay, the confusion continues, and hopefully we reach some clarity in part two of our discussion of Google entities.
Yeah, no, for sure, man. We gotta help everybody out because this is becoming more and more important and yeah, critical.
Well, awesome. Well, welcome everybody. I see people coming in. Dee, Brian, Dorina. Hey, good to see you. Happy New Year. Dr. Art, Lisa, welcome, welcome everybody.
Yep.
Okay, we'll give people another 30 seconds and then just for those that were not on last time, there is a recording of it. We had a pretty heavy, intensive discussion of the nuts and bolts of what you need to do in terms of SEO in 2026. And the bottom line is that the old keyword kind of focused techniques for creating content really no longer apply. And it's all about how Google and AI now uses the concept of entities and understanding, uh, certain things about various entities. And we discuss what they are, and we'll review all of that again today. But we had a huge deep dive into it that we're going to finish today.
Yeah. I found myself last time around, since I know how hard it was for me. I don't know if I'm not speaking for you, Hubert, but for me to understand all this stuff, I found myself thinking, oh man, how's our team doing on this one? This one's a bit of a bear. So all good. Let's do it.
Okay, cool. So I'm going to share my screen and kind of also use this as an opportunity to kind of reveal my own personal workflow when I see something interesting being posted online. Okay, and this is how I kind of uh, digest things and process things, and how I know based on my knowledge and what I query from AI whether somebody knows what they're doing or not. Okay, and so these are some screenshots. So I like to subscribe to certain people for certain subjects in X, right, formerly known as Twitter. And so I follow a couple of SEO type people in X. And when I see a post of interest, I'll actually go and just screenshot it on my iPhone. Okay, I'll press the home button and the power button and it takes a picture. The reason why I like doing that is because it behind the scenes uploads it to iCloud, and then I can easily share my phone screen grabs, by a browser by flipping through it like this. So it's perfect for like sharing on a webinar or something like that. So that's just a tip, right? So this one caught my eye originally, shortly after, you and I had a discussion about this kind of stuff. And he starts off by saying keyword density is dead. Google understands meaning now. Okay. We tested, so this is interesting because he actually ran tests, right? We tested semantic optimization, and then I'll explain how semantic and entity optimization are related across 60 articles to see what actually ranks in 2026. And here's what actually ranks in modern search. Okay. And so each point by point, I go and I grab a separate screenshot, right? Why keyword density failed, the old approach, right? Originally, we used to follow formulas like this. Use the
Mhm,
keyword three to
mhm.
five times every thousand words, right? Here are the problems with that. And the idea is that the modern Google understands topics, entities, and context. And that's what we talked about last time. Okay. So the whole concept revolves the use of entities in what's called semantic SEO, right? You want to cover topics, not just stuff keywords. So we talked about last time about how Google, for any given topic, wants to see that you are an expert by how you cover all the entities, all the things that are about that topic, right? So here, example, cover all aspects of the topic, include related concepts, connect to entities, answer implicit questions. And they used an example of email marketing. So the old way would be just say email marketing, email marketing, email marketing. No, the new way is that a an article is deemed useful if you talk about deliverability of your emails, email segmentation, list automation, analytics, happy design, right? And it's because originally Google identifies by looking at a zillion things about email marketing, certain topics, entities, and expects to see it in your um, output, right?
So
And
Hubie, before we go further, just so for those who weren't on the call at our
mhm,
last mastermind, what is an entity? An entity is a thing, a place, a concept, an
Yeah.
idea, anything that paints a complete picture on a particular topic that somebody is looking at. So
Yes.
an entity could literally be Paris. It could also be a recipe. It could also be your name. It could also be what you do. It can be any number of things that gives relevance and context to a particular topic that someone is searching for.
So let's unpack some of that, okay? Because some of the things you say are true for what is a entity, but some of the other things that you also just mentioned in the same breath are what do you do with entities to get certain information out of it? So what I mean by that is this. You said that it's comprehensive. An entity is a comprehensive thing about a topic. That's actually not true. It's just actually one nugget
Yes,
of
one aspect of a thing.
right. It's one nugget of information in in the totality of the matrix of what Google does with all of these separate entities is that it ties the entities together. And I'll explain that in a second when we talk about vectors and vector space, right? But each of these entities are like a person, place, or thing. So it's a noun. And the person, place, or thing may or may not have to do with what you're interested in particular. And that's what Google and AIs are constantly tuning, and they used to get confused. And originally, we've it's been a while since we found one of those like joke posts about how a an AI engine couldn't tell the difference between a pug dog and a bagel, right? Because visually they
Right,
looked kind of similar, right?
right. Yep,
That's
yep.
a relic of the past, and it's because certain entities. So, getting back to your example, Paris is an entity, but so are things like flights to Paris or Paris airports or tourists and all of that. These entities tie together. Now here is a good example on my screen of entities tied to email marketing. So there's list building, there's email design, there's subject line, there's segmentation, there's automation. So the bottom line is if you had a call with the person who purports to be an expert in email marketing and they don't cover all of these topics, you'd be like, I don't know if they're really an expert or not, right?
Well,
So
and especially when it comes to AI and search, if they don't cover these topics, when somebody's looking for what they offer, they're never going to be found.
exactly, right? So here's entity optimization. Entities are things Google knows, like people. Okay, now these particular values all come from the world of email marketing. Okay, Neil Patel has a newsletter about how to do subject lines and on and on. Tools. So here are two leading tools: Mailchimp, ConvertKit. Concepts: open rate, A/B testing, right? Methods: drip campaigns versus autoresponders. So these are all entities that Google knows about the topic of email marketing. Okay. Now, how to optimize these entities. Okay. Now we're getting into entity optimization. Mention relevant entities naturally, link to authoritative sources about entities, and use proper names, not just generic terms. Like if you're talking about your experience in email tools, mention MailChimp or ConvertKit or Aweber. The specificity, as we discussed last time when we were coaching Bridget on the hot seat originally, just the other day,
Mhm.
we were telling her to be specific with PowerPoint and Google Slides and so forth, right?
It's almost like you have to do a little bit of what some people might look down upon is shameless self-promotion. But
Yes.
shameless self-promotion in this case is not about self-promoting. It's about painting a complete picture of all the things that you do so that when an AI engine is looking for any of those things, they find you. So I
Yes.
know a lot of people maybe have a difficulty saying all the things that they do, but here's the deal. If you don't say it, they're never going to find you for it.
Exactly. And the concept I like your concept of self-promoting, but also I like to add to it self-promoting and also name dropping. Because the name dropping is Google seeing other related entities close to your entity, and therefore it's validating it through its data. Okay, so here's the next slide. Semantic keyword research. And we talked about this previously about how to find the correct entities, right? So it's suggesting method one, Google's people also ask, right? Search the main keyword and then extract the questions that are shown. And they originally showed you guys a trick last time. You click on the arrow to open and expand the questions, and the questions keep popping up. All of those questions can be mined for the semantic concepts and the entities that are related, right? Method two, related searches. Bottom of search result pages shows semantic connections, user search patterns. Method three, competitor content analysis. This is what our guy Andrew does a lot. You analyze the top five ranking articles, right? So let's say you're Dr. Art and you want to talk about industrial safety in a certain niche. Rather than start from a blank page, go and look, run the search, see who's ranking up there, and then ask Google to go and look and extract the Google entities and cover them all in your version of the article, right? So this becomes, now that you know what to do, it becomes easy to do because you have the power of AI. Now, in the old days, when we wanted to be fancy, we'd say latent semantic indexing, LSI, right? So that's now an outdated concept. It used to be that if you were talking about email marketing, you'd have to rack your brain and come up with synonyms and variations. And that was very kind of like keyword centric. But now the modern approach is that you have to think about the concepts of it, right? So email marketing has certain concepts like segmentation, deliverability, and automation. These are not simple word substitutions or synonyms. Unless you're a expert in this niche originally, you wouldn't come up with these concepts,
Hmm.
right? And that's why Google likes it because Google knows the concepts you're supposed to come up with, and it looks to see if you do or you don't, right? Number seven, testing semantic optimization. Here's an interesting test that they did. They did 30 articles using the traditional way with a 2 to 3% keyword density, average 1,800 word count. Okay. Not that long ago, a year ago, I was writing blog posts using this formula. Okay. And it was fine. It worked fine. Results, average position 12.4. Look at this visually. They wrote another 30 articles in the new way, okay, with semantic coverage, a higher word count because you're covering more entities and you're going more comprehensive. Okay, so sound familiar? Yes, it sounds more like these topical authority clusters that Andrew and Ridgely talk about a lot, right? And look, it does twice the better position. Average position 6.8 as opposed to 12. And Ridge, all the big difference between being on page one and being on page two. I mean, huge,
Yeah, totally.
right? Okay. So the results can be there. Content depth indicators. How Google measures coverage. Here are the signals it uses. Number of entities, unique concepts covered. Depth per concept, that's the word count, right? And it's not because, oh, 300 words is better than 200 words. It's because when you do 300 words or 400 words, you can probably cover the concept better, right? Entity mentions and connections, internal links, so linking up things from entity to entity, external references to authority. Okay, now we'll go to the next one and we're almost done. How to optimize semantically. Okay, so here's the payoff right here. If you're going to write an article, identify the main topic of the article. Then search related concepts using people also ask, right? PAA, people also ask, related searches. Find 8 to 12 core concepts to cover. Allocate 200 to 400 words per concept. Mention relevant entities naturally, link to related content, cite authority sources, and use the primary keyword naturally. Folks, this is a formula that you can just screen grab and put into your AI and say, I want an article about this. It needs to rank well. It needs to show EEAT. That's the expertise and trust and all of that. And follow these, entity optimization principles. And out will pop out an article, right? That's way better than what you could have done by hand. So just to wrap up, semantic SEO works because of all of these things here, right? And so originally this formula here is really how people should blog in 2026, right? And
Hmm.
so people might say, well, these are longer articles and it's hard to do and blah blah blah, but that's what AI is for. And if it's something that you don't like, do it anyway because you really need um, to do this to rank well. And any questions about this from anybody before I dive into the next level of this, because I did an AI analysis of this and I want to show off that as well. Any thoughts on that, Ridgely?
Well, yeah, a couple things. Number one,
Hmm.
obviously, that as you suggested, to use AI to do this is to not use AI is foolish. There's no reason that you should do this work yourself. That's just stupid. Just don't, right? We need to get over that concept completely. Secondly, ChatGPT and the other tools, Gemini, I can't speak so much for Grok because I don't use Grok very much, but Perplexity for sure. They're getting
Hmm.
so smart that all you have to do is ask for what you need. Now, obviously, garbage in, garbage out. So if the ask is not relevant or intelligent, then that's not going to help you all that much. But in a little while, we'll get to personalization and apps because we want to talk a little bit about that if we have time, Huey, just to
Hmm.
let people know that the amount of things, let's just take ChatGPT, the amount of things that you can link to with ChatGPT, you can link it to your email, to your Zoom, to your Canva, I mean, to everything that you use nowadays, and more apps on a daily basis. To do that kind of work yourself is goofballish. Don't do that. You cannot compete
Goofball.
with you. Yeah, you just can't compete with the competition who's not doing that. So, and I'll show an example of that this morning, of one thing I heard about something this morning at 7:55 or something like that. And I want to
Hmm.
show you how by 9:10, I had built an entire branding voice document, all relevant topics using AI based on a simple concept. So,
Wow. Actually, let's take a moment and do that now if you don't mind, because that sounds so intriguing.
okay, so here's the thing. If you have an AI of choice, and you've heard us say this multiple times, you want to use your AI of choice on a regular basis because it learns more and more and more about you, right?
Hmm.
So once you've done that, and I've been using ChatGPT since the beginning, I mean, literally a couple of years now. So with that in mind, um, literally all I had to do was, and I'm going to pull up ChatGPT right here. I'll share my screen so everybody can see what happened, and how I was able to tweak the tool. Go back to the beginning. I I went into ChatGPT 5.2 into extended thinking, right? So if anybody doesn't know what we're talking about, there's you click down on the little arrow right there, and there's ways that you can do auto. It decides how long to think, answers right away, or thinks longer for better answers. So I wanted to get the longer thinking, so I clicked on extended thinking, which you see shows up now in the prompt box right there, extended thinking. And then I said simply, based on everything you know and all the work we've done in the field of dentistry, can you give me a branding voice document for Ridgely Goldsboro? And this is before I even tweaked it. The North Star, brand promise. You'll grow your practice without feeling salesy chaotic. Primary outcome, more of the right patients. Say yes to the right care. Core belief, dentistry doesn't have a marketing problem. It has a trust and clarity problem. That is 100% EEAT. That is entities and vectors. That's exactly what we're talking about right now. So important to remember that it's showing up as my North Star. Positioning, Ridgely is the calm strategist with a comedic timing, blah, blah, blah. Best fit industry, owner dentists. And notice there's nothing other than dentists here. So it's not me teaching office managers. It's not me teaching dental service organizations. It's got my audience down already. And that's without tweaking. Voice identity, voice in one line, confident, warm, and wonderfully blunt. So again, this is one simple prompt based on 2 years of work using the same tool. Signature traits, what are they? Tone slider, what do we want it to sound like? Brand pillars, what are they? Etc. Messaging practice priorities, what's the order of operations? And here's where it starts to be like, is that exactly what I want to say? Maybe not. Audience psychology, the unspoken fears, right? And then signature language, what are words that Ridgely uses? Words to avoid or use sparingly. Crush it, hustle, jargon soup, omni-channel energy, growth hacks, brand archetypes, right? Shame language. The Ridgely rules, do's and don'ts. Use you language. We've talked about that a zillion times on our mastermind, right? Make it all about them, all about them, all about them. Speak in clear, be kind but direct, short paragraphs. name the bottleneck, don't overpromise, make anybody feel stupid, etc. 10 humor guidelines, it gives some guidelines, micro style guide, brand story. It just goes on and on and on and on. Now, I got to the end and it says to me, I can also turn this into a one-page voice cheat sheet, swipe styles, but I was like, wait, it doesn't quite understand that my client is one thing and one thing only. So I tweaked the prompt by going with, can we add into this the fact that Ridgely's number one focus in helping dentists is in boosting new patient acquisition and driving their new patient numbers through marketing efforts in SEO, AIO, paid traffic, tax, and any other ways? Sure, here's a drop-in expansion. And then it updates the North Star primary mission, drive more qualified new patients. Primary outcome, predictable flow of new patients. Ridgely's obsession, more right fit new patients on purpose every month. Now it's really got my voice 100%. And as I keep going through this, right, it has all of these different sources, how we do this, brand phrases, messaging priorities, signature truths, a CTA bank, which is usually only one, hero lines, glossaries, etc. And then it says, do you want a finally consolidated voice message? Yeah, I go, yeah, give it to me. And now we have a complete branding voice document. What am I going to do with this? I'm going to send
That's
it to
great.
a knowledge base that we use to find dentists and speaking jobs, of course. So now I have
Well, your sound is dropping in and out for me. I don't know if anybody else is having an issue.
of the AI engines, by the way, not just chat. So I just want to show you that. Now I've already taken this, sent it over to the guy who built the AI software to help us find dental speaking gigs, and it's already in my knowledge base from something that I heard about right at breakfast time this morning.
That's awesome. That is it's amazing what's happened to our productivity, Ridge.
It's just crazy. It's great, and to not use this tool is just goofballish. Why would you do that?
Yes, exactly. All right, so I just want to acknowledge a couple of comments here. Bruce said not just using the same AI platform, use the same chat thread. I have something to show about that, by the way. In ChatGPT, you can have reference memory and other chats. So let me just
Well, let me
sh
correct that for a second, because Bruce, that's not 100% true. You could use the same chat thread if it's super relevant to one particular thing, but I use ChatGPT for everything. So my prompt was everything you've seen me talk about in dentistry, tap into that. So in your area, Bruce, with the work that you do, you've had multiple different chat threads. You can ask the tool to use all of them to create your branding voice.
Yeah, and when you want specifics and to filter specifics, look at this example. And Ridgely, I've been doing this. I'm normally not a super organized person, but the benefits just are tremendous. So I'm in my ChatGPT, okay, and this concept here about projects, okay, you can create new projects. A project is simply once you create the project, you can then go back into your chats and assign different chats to different projects. And it'll learn from within the scope of that project. So meaning, here are my different projects. I recently worked on a new website for a dentist, and it's Cookville Dentist. And there's a whole thing about like the strategy and another thing about the logo creation. And I saved them underneath, Ridgely, this project. And the project scoping is a nice way for it to, for you not to have to keep telling it where to go to get the information. Likewise, if I go to, um, 29th Street Dental Care, over here, I will be collecting all of my AI queries for that project, right? And you see how that goes then, that you can go in here and ha have it write YouTube descriptions and blog descriptions and everything else. So this organization way also exists in Perplexity. So here we are in Perplexity. In Perplexity, the equivalent is spaces. So you can create spaces that are grouping mechanisms and put certain chats in them. Now, just to pick up what I did earlier, just so that you guys see, those screenshots on my phone from X that I took, since I had them, I also went to Perplexity and I said, I will paste screenshots of an X thread that suggests a modern way to create content that's effective. Explain these concepts to me as related to Google entities. So I put in 8 of the attachments and it starts giving me stuff. And I put in the rest of the screenshots and I said, given all this, break it all down for me, explain it, and give me an actionable plan, right? You always want to extract like something actionable out of it. So it comes in here and it explains the whole idea of it. And Google basically evaluates how well your page covers the main entities, its attributes, and related entities, plus how that page fits inside a larger topic cluster on your site, right? And so it's looking not only at the page, but it's also looking at the site and everything else. So you have a main entity, you have supporting entities, you have relationships, and you have questions around it, and all of that equals that comprehensive coverage, 3,000 words, increases semantic depth and you rank better, right? And here's, different ways to mention specifics. We mentioned last time that Google takes its entity information and stores it in a database that they have internally called the knowledge graph, right? And that's where they store all the information about you as an entity, right? Now, something that's interesting here is it it started explaining this to me, but it talks about dental stuff because it knows that I do a lot of dental stuff because it learned, right? But it also is talking about email marketing because that was in the example. So I started getting confused. So look at my quote. I mean, my next thing, I said, you're mixing up examples from the screenshots, email marketing, with my niche of dental marketing. Give me a complete guide again, this time only from the perspective of dental marketing. Explain how entities, semantic meaning, and vectors will work well in 2026 for search engine and AI platform ranking, and what I should do in terms of my blog post. So now it goes and rewrites the whole thing, okay? And it explains this very well. So we talked about entities as things, right? Dentist, dental implant, Invisalign, root canal. But then semantic meaning is how these entities relate to each other, right? So a dental implant is a type of restorative dentistry. Invisalign is an alternative to traditional braces, right? Emergency dentist is located in East Setauket, where I live, right? And so that's the whole meaning type of thing. Now look at this. We're talking about like vectors last time, and this is where we started getting bogged down. Okay, so I wanted to kind of explain that originally better than I did last time. Modern search and AI platforms embed queries and pages into vector space. Okay, so think of, a X and Y grid, but then you can think of a three-dimensional one, X, Y, and Z. But with entity type of stuff, there's actually like 500 entities. So it's kind of hard to visualize. But imagine that there's a space where your queries and also your page, they're all put inside this vector space. And the closer these entities are in the vector space, that's what it decides to um, produce. Okay, so I know that sounded like crazy, but let me
Well,
just find an example.
let me bring it home this way. You
Yep.
know how when you get to the end of a YouTube video that you search for, it finds
Mhm.
all kinds of other, YouTube finds all kinds of other similar and related YouTube videos to the one that you were looking at and
Yep.
offers them to you? It's the same thing in AI engines and AIO or AI optimization. In
Yep.
other words, when someone is looking for something, Google and other AI engines are going to go out there and see who covers that thing or something similar to that thing better than
Mhm.
anybody else. And
Yes.
it's going to recommend that person in the same way that YouTube recommends whatever is related to you based on what it knows about you. So that's a simple way of thinking. Oh yeah, that happens to me all the time. Well, this is the same thing that you're trying to craft now. In other words, yes, it
Mm.
happens to you because Google's very smart about this and Google owns YouTube. But what you're trying to do is you're trying to craft it so that when somebody else looks for something that you have, you come up for them first.
Yes, that's excellent. So that's a good use of an example to explain it. The other way I tried to understand it is instead of an example, I asked it to give me a mental model. Okay, that's just another helpful thing to ask for. So I said, explain vectors and vector space, and help me form a mental model to understand how search engines and AI platforms decide who to recommend based on the content and other ranking signals of a website. The An example I could forget if it's not memorable enough, but a mental model is like, okay, I see that now in my head and I'm never going to forget it, right? So it tells me that to think of it this way. Think of vectors as a way for search engines and AI to turn meaning into coordinates on a map. Then recommend the pages whose coordinates sit closest to the user's question, right? So now I'm like, oh, okay, I'm starting to get this. The rest of the ranking system decides which pages. Okay, so what's a vector? It's a long list of numbers and has to do with, I don't know, a word, a sentence, a page, or whatever. Okay, a vector space is the map where all these vectors live. Okay, so here's the model, mental model. Imagine every piece of content is a dot floating in a huge 3D universe. In reality, it's 512 plus dimensions. Queries become dots too. Nearest neighbors in that universe are what gets retrieved first. Now I'm thinking, okay, there's this big blob of stuff, and there's a dot in there that represents the search query, and then the dots near it represent the answers. So now it's clear in my head how I can start influencing these things. Okay. And so it starts going into like how to do all this stuff with the vectors and entities. So I said, review my understanding. Is the query from the user converted into a vector, and then the closest matching one in vector space is returned at the answer? Mostly right, but it says that you need other factors too. EEAT, freshness, links, quality, that's all the normal stuff that we talk about. I just wanted to check because we do a lot of work with Google AI Overview. I said, is that how it decides what to put in the answers? Roughly, yes, but it then talks about EAT, helpful content, blah, 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 all the regular Google core ranking. Okay, and this is why you people originally say, oh, do well in Google and you'll do well in AI. That's true, but do well in Google plus take advantage of this new entity understanding and you'll do really, really well, right? So, here's another takeaway. Whenever I do something like this for myself, I always ask AI, provide a guide that teaches these concepts that I can use to educate my blog writers so that they produce better content this year, right? This is where you start like storing the knowledge and passing it on and successfully using, yourself as a trainer type of thing. So it goes and it creates a whole guide for blog writers, how to create content that ranks in Google AI overviews and chatbots 2026. Your mission, the big shift. So originally any blog writer that reads this, like will get a good briefing as to like, oh, okay, I know what I used to do. I know what I should do. This is why, and it gives examples. Right. And I just want to encourage everybody, if you're learning stuff in AI, you might as well go all the way and get like a useful output for your business from that. What do you think?
I think it's important. Two things. Number one, important for you to do that for yourself, but let's recall it's also important to share this with your team members that are working on projects, right? So it's not enough for you to just accumulate the information for yourself. Also,
Mhm.
make sure if you got a blog writer, you're sending that to the blog writer saying, hey, been doing some deep level research here. Want to make sure that we're totally dialed in on all these concepts. Can you take a look at this and give me your take on it? Right? So we're
Yeah,
not just letting people, we're not just saying, hey, man, look this stuff up. When you do deep research and you have the knowledge base that we do, then you want to make sure that you're sharing that information so that the knowledge transfer is legit.
exactly. And then you can always, of course, have it well organized and then use the share functionality where you click it and you get, people access into this link. I just want to acknowledge Bruce says this. I found out that what's inside projects in ChatGPT will not necessarily stay inside. The memory leaks outside the project. When using projects for clients, you must give the project specific instructions to only use what it has access to inside the project. Good point, Bruce. So, Ridgely, I hope that clears up some of, what's been going on. Um, I
I
know
think
that
it's
last time we kind of got a lot of people that were like, "Huh, what?" So,
well, I think it clears it up somewhat, and it also hopefully triggers a lot of questions for people to dive deep into. Obviously, pop your question in the chat if you have it, because this is so cutting edge. We're so far ahead of everybody else that if you start doing these things that we're talking about, you're going to have a massive advantage. And that brings me to uh, personalization in apps. Should we dive in a little bit, QB?
Yes. Yes, let's do it.
All right. So let's imagine here that you are in your, I'm just sharing, this is what we just talked about, my whatever, right? My brand, my voice branding voice document. But
Hmm.
I'm looking for some new stuff. I mean, I want to find some new stuff. So what do I do? So I look down here at plus and it says personalization. I wonder what that personalization thing is right there. And I click it. And then I look into this and it's already got like basic style and tone, quirky. Okay, that's what it's got me set as. I don't know what's up with that. Warm, enthusiastic, etc. But custom instructions. Let's suppose that you want to get chat to have a nickname, an occupation, etc. Let's suppose you want ChatGPT to do stuff for you. You can simply set up controls that say, hey, every Monday morning, I want you to go do this and then share it with me. Now, how do we share it with you? Well, you got to tie it together. You've got to tie it together with the apps that you're using so that it has a methodology by which to share something with you. So, for example, whatever it is that you use, you want to make sure that is in there. Um, that you're using that particular thing so that the tool can share it with you. So here, you want to say any more on this? Because obviously but you can see in here, look at how many different apps. Google Calendar, it
Right.
can check your calendar. Your Gmail, it can check your Gmail. Send an email to me to do this. And ChatGPT and AI will do this work for you. You don't have to do this work anymore.
Right. I have not fooled around with any of that, which is to me an awesome thing because the variety of usage models are so varied that like I would I would think that most people haven't tapped a fraction of what can be done. And I have not been doing that. I've not been really building out any super workflows. My whole thing has been using it as like um a a coach and optimization and then producing my outputs given to me in a way that explains everything. The what I like to do in some of the settings that you showed is I like to have ChatGPT converse to me in like a verbose way, meaning I like it when it gives me not only what I look for, but the reasons why it did what it did, right? And so I always like that, and I find that I without the settings, I used to have to tell it, remind it to, explain what you're doing. But now that you showed me some of these settings, I'm going to explore, what's possible.
So again, just to get here, go to personalization, go to apps, and start linking these apps to your ChatGPT. By the way, all the AIs have the same thing. I just use ChatGPT. That's the one that I use. So
Right.
you can tie it together with your calendar, with your Calendly, with your booking system, with anything you want. There's ways of doing it. You could even do something like on the first day of each month, go through all of my emails to tell me if there are any missed opportunities for a new business that I have not taken care of or that I've forgotten about. And send me an email describing what those are, listing them out one by one, and what are some good courses of action that I should take with respect to that particular lead. And boom,
Cool.
it'll be waiting for you when you turn on your machine on the first day of the month. I mean, so just trying to expand the thinking of what's possible because as we talk about all the time, what's possible is unbelievable. It's unlimited.
Yeah, for sure.
So
All right. So,
I just wanted to point out something here. I just want to point out something that Ridgely by myself came up with something to show to Hubert. That does not happen very often around here. Just wanted to just letting everybody know, you know.
there you go. No, I'm not into like checking out all the bells and whistles until I need them. So, my voyage of discovery is less browsing and more deep diving. So,
All right. What else?
all right. Okay, cool. So I just did want to invite if anybody wanted to follow up with their individual questions about what their Google entities are and so forth to please feel free to hop on the hot seat. We have a good turnout today, and so we invite everybody that's on to pick our brains about SEO in 2026. Just a lot of people joined us since we started, so I just want to go through the list again. Hi, Annalisa, BD, Bill Straubinger, good to see you. Brenda, it's been a while. Hello, hello. Brian and Brian, we have two Brians. Bridget, hey there. Hope you've you know gotten some more meat out of this particular one since you were on a hot seat last time. We see Bruce, we see D, David, nice to see you again. Darina and Art, as I mentioned. Follow Shade, hello, hello, Lisa and Mary. So a good turnout today, originally.
Yeah, excellent. And just a quick heads up. In term with whatever tool you're doing, if you can think of repetitive tasks, I mean, we hear about this a lot, right? Well, what's going to happen? Who is AI going to replace? And AI is going to replace the people that do repetitive tasks that are not thinking about how could AI do this for me? Because, I mean, why would you want to pay somebody to do something that is an automatically repetitive thing that an agent or an AI tool could do for you? So you think about your business. Wow, what are the things that I'm always doing? What are the things that could that I would like to assign to somebody? And then imagine that that somebody is not a person that is generally relatively reliable, but they're not reliable if they're sick, if they feel bad, if something goes wrong, if whatever. But the tool is as reliable as the internet itself. So does the internet every now and then go down? Yes. But is it more reliable than a person? In a big way, right? So for instance, let's say it's Ridgely's now going after the speaking industry of dentistry. I could write a prompt that says every single day, uh, we're going to go through, by each day of the month, we'll go through two states per day. So day one, we're going to go Alabama and Arkansas, or whatever the first two are, right? Alaska and Alabama. All right. So imagine that I write a prompt that says, okay, go out onto the internet and find all of the relevant speaking events that might apply to me in Alaska and Alabama that come up today. And then just get the tool to run. I'm not even
Hmm.
asking that on a daily basis. I'm just getting the output on a daily basis. Obviously, you could get far more sophisticated, which we are doing, by the way. What I just did was a very, very base way of doing things. Um, but you can do that exact same type of thing, get it to do research. What new clients, imagine that you're in real estate. What new properties have come on the market through the MLS listing or whatever? Get
Hmm.
AI to give you that list each day. Have it, whatever. Then, when it gets overwhelming, you say, okay, AI, go through all of my emails with all the current listings, check which ones are still relevant, and give me an output to do that for me. You don't have to go back and find all that stuff. So we have to really alter the way we're thinking about using tools that are available to us. You have an entire army at your disposal right now to do all those things for you.
Yeah, for sure. All right, a couple of wanted to read a couple more of the chats just to catch up, and then I have another example to show. So, my example has to do with managing how the spaces, I mean the projects in ChatGPT work and so forth. Following up on um, the earlier questions in the chat. So, Bruce, just hang tight for that, and I think you'll like my example. Okay, excuse me. Bridget, yep, watch the recording. And Elisa, recently heard that one way to boost your appearance on the AI overview is to get your business on lists like Reddit, etc. What are your thoughts? You're exactly right. One word of caution about Reddit that I always say, and it's not believed until people actually start using and reading and looking at Reddit. Okay. So it's highly effective for influencing AI, but it's also hard to do because you can't cheat your way through. Okay. If you guys ever like use Reddit for real, Reddit is extremely vigorous in self-policing. Meaning if you're on there, just trying to get links and mentioning stuff and not really contributing, and you don't have in Reddit, there's called karma and stuff like this, and you can upvote and downvote and all of this. The environment is brutal. Okay. if you're in there trying to game stuff, you're going to be roasted like anything. So, yes, is it effective? For sure. Is it easy to do? No, because it's very hard to get a good, Reddit account with good karma and so forth. And so to kind of do it in a way that is kind of unsavory, you're going to be soundly trounced by the Reddit environment and the culture, right? And so anybody that uses Reddit for real knows what I'm talking about. Dee is asking, where will I find the recordings? I'll send out another email with this one and the other one in particular, and it'll be on my YouTube channel, and you can browse some other recordings there as well. Bill says, could it not only tell me who has problems about who would, but also who would be most likely to want to solve the problem? Um, I guess that was in response to what you were saying originally. Phil, for me, I'm a little out of context on that, so if you want to clarify that, that would be cool. But let me share my screen and give you my other thought about how I evolve into a prompt that I then want to save. And what I mean is this. I will often use ChatGPT as kind of my co-working buddy when I have to do something, such as write all the YouTube descriptions. Okay, so in YouTube, when you put up a video, you have to choose a title, you have to choose a description, you have to set all these settings. It's a whole rigmarole, right? So I go on here and I say, act as an expert in ranking YouTube videos well on Google search results. How can you help me optimize the videos on my YouTube channel? I need your input on settings such as description, settings, etc. My YouTube channel is for my dental practice. The YouTube channel is this. My dentist office is here. My website is this, and my main keyword is this. Dentist in Cookville, PN, right? So I train it, and I give it. I'm just doing an inline training just in a regular chat. Perfect, blah blah blah, whatever. And so it starts giving me stuff, right? So tags, thumbnails, everything else, right? Okay, good job. Um, it offers, do you want me to look at current videos and see how it could help? So I said, okay, sure. So I'm gonna go and I drop it one video and it looks and blah 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 and it goes and rewrites everything. Right? So I'm like, okay, cool. This is cool. Look, there's even timestamps and everything. So it actually went and looked at the titles, I mean the transcript and gets a whole thing. So now I'm starting to get impressed. Okay. Even keywords that are relevant for it. So I'm like, wow, okay. So now I come back here and I say, I want your input based on the actual video content. Should I paste the transcript? So I paste in the transcript and now it's getting super um, in here. So I tell it what the author said, blah, blah, blah. And now it's like really optimizing it, right? The point is not to show you all of this. The point is this. When I'm finally happy with how it's outputting, I don't want to go through all that training again for my other clients in my other um, um, projects. So I go and I ask it this, and this is where I want you guys to kind of um, pay attention to what you can do. Okay, so forgive me for scrolling all of this stuff. Okay. I did all of that to another video just to double check it. So it goes through and like I give it some tweaking and now I'm like really happy with how it's coming out. And now I really want to save it, right? So including things like this. And this is really subtle, but when it was including URLs, it wasn't putting a slash at the back of it. And I wanted to do it because it's a little bit better for SEO, right? Perfect. That's a really smart detail, blah, 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 whatever. So now it's really learning all this stuff. Okay, so I'm going to speed up faster to go to the payoff. Okay, here. Now, as you see, I've evolved all of this as by actually co-working with it, as opposed to originally your style of like doing the super prompt and thinking it through and coming up with a prompt, right? It's kind of like I'm backing into the prompt. Okay, and here's the section here. I keep saying here it is, and I don't get to it. I hadn't realized that I did so many of these, but you guys will get what I say when. Okay, look, here's where I start thinking about this. I would like to be able to create similar YouTube meta packages for other dental practices and other ChatGPT projects, right? I inadvertently hit enter too soon. So I come back here, it's already working away, but then I come back and I clarify and I say, I need the instructions for this in a downloadable TXT file. right? That I'm just used to it that way. I don't want to save this as a thread, this, that, and the other thing. I want a file that I could actually put into a project structure that I have on Google Drive, right? Then I'd like step-by-step instructions on how to train other chats or AI assistants, right? Including off-platform, not just in ChatGPT, to produce the desired output. I intend to create separate ChatGPT projects for each client. In their respective projects, I will create a dedicated chat to create these YouTube packages based on the transcripts of the dentist's videos, right? Now that I know what I want after doing a bunch of them, I'm asking it to give me the SOP file. So it gives me the SOP, and here it gives me a step by step, right? And
Hmm.
then it says, if you want, paste your existing system instruction here, and I'll splice this. But I came back after a while and I said, I see that there wasn't a system distraction instruction. Rather, we had a conversation, developed the flow of me submitting a video transcript for you and using in creating the package, meaning it evolved, right? And it says, yes, you're right. We did it organically through the conversation as a repeatable workflow and rule set. Here's my big point of this whole discussion. If you spend all that time and energy getting a output exactly the way you like it in the chat, say that I love the way this is, and please give me the information so that I can repeat this in other chats or even other platforms. And it's gonna give you a text file if you want it, but instructions, and it's gonna convert everything. And basically, it's this. Think of it as a freeze-dried version of this entire thread, something you can drop into any project and get the same output, right? It locks it in. That's exactly what you want for portability. Okay, and so originally, I'm just telling the good people here that if you spent the time training a chat thread and you don't want to lose it because you could easily lose it, just make sure to ask it to output line by line an entire TXT file, and that's what I did. And I take that and I can give it to my team members. And again, this is very much the train the trainer thing because believe it or not, it's way easier to follow an existing prompt that somebody else gives you than to try to invent it your own organically because it requires a lot of that SME subject matter expertise.
Yeah, interesting. Um, so this morning, again, on the same conversation that I learned about the branding voice document, I also learned about somebody made a comment that triggered a thought. And that was that for me, if I'm going after the speaking industry, what if my presentations had continuing education credits attached to them? CE credits. There's the process to getting CE credits. And I don't know what that is. So, why would I kill myself to figure out what that is when I have this crazy tool called AI, right? So I could go into AI, and while Hubert was explaining what he was just explaining, right now on this call, I just typed in act as a dental industry consultant with deep knowledge of CE credits in the industry. A dental speaker whose focus is on marketing and new patient acquisition is interested in creating a program that offers CE credits to dentists who attend his presentation. What is the best process to become accredited so as to offer CE credits for the presentation? Ask whatever question needed. Right? I always throw whatever question is needed to make sure that they have enough information AI does to give me the answer. There we go. The three best paths for most speakers. I haven't even read this yet. This is literally, again, just sharing with people when you need something or you need to find out something. There is no reason to kill yourself to figure this out when you can use AI. So, this is
Exactly.
the easiest way to offer CE immediately without building a whole CE compliance system. Nice. All right. Study clubs, conference organizers. Oh, the partners, the official CE provider, etc. Why speakers love it, become accredited. There's all kinds of ways of doing it. And I'm sure when I go down below, it's going to tell me lots of other things about this. Gotchas, recommendation, partner with an existing, etc. Questions. Where will the attendees come from? Format mix, volume. So what I would do next, which I will do, not right now because we're running out of time here, but I would go through these questions, rapidly answer them, and then it's going to give me the cleanest path right there. So from an idea that came up in a conversation this morning, All I need to do to execute on that idea is go to AI and say, look, this is what I'm trying to accomplish. What's the best way to do it? Now, obviously, once I get the feedback, whatever feedback I get, then I can do what Hubert is doing, which is saying, hey, give me a step-by-step process. Give me a likely timeline. Tell me things I need to be paying attention to. Tell me ways that I can bridge gaps. Da, da, da. I can do all of that to take it to another level. And within, I don't know, 26 minutes or something like that, I have a complete plan on how to get myself CE credits so that I can get more docs to show up to my presentations so that they will listen to what I have to say, find out what we have to offer, and sign up for our programs.
Yep, for sure. Great, excellent. A couple of more helpful hints from Bruce that I just want to read into the record here. When uploading, I'm sorry, let me read this one first. So Bruce, so this, and Elisa will find this related to her question about Reddit as well. Bruce said, I'm in another AI group, and they found that posting content to these following platforms are great for helping you build your Google entity because of how they index. That's definitely true. These are highly crawled by Google. LinkedIn posts and articles for sure. TikTok, X, YouTube, Instagram, and Pinterest. Yeah, and of those, like YouTube is great for Google, right? Because it's the same owner and everything else. And then Bruce also talked about going down to the level of how you do your naming convention on your file names, like images and things like that. When uploading images, make sure the file name has the name of the entity you want indexed, be it your name, business location, etc. It should appear in the file name how you want it indexed and add a sequence number at the end to keep it unique on your computer. So his example is, Bruce-Barnes.jpg, Bruce-J-Barnes underscore one JPEG, and so on and so forth. Use dashes instead of spaces. Okay, so that's awesome. Bridget also said, love that. Just met a person that wants to collaborate with me. She has a group of people that she writes her webinar script. She wants me to design their slides. What prompt could I ask to figure out what the agreement should be for this? Bridgely, this is right up your alley as to like how to have brain AI come up with an initial brainstorm and draft to take a direction because this is like there's no right answer. And I would think that one of the benefits of asking AI is when you ask it, what are some of the directions or factors that I should consider when coming up with such an agreement?
Mhm.
All right. So if you wanted to take a 60 seconds and give Bridget some feedback on that, and then we'll wrap it up.
Um,
He wants them to, so they want Bridget to work on their slides, and this person that collaborates has a group of people, and she writes their webinar scripts. I think we have that right, Bridget.
I would say, let's do a pilot. Send me the webinar script so that I can, and then once you get the webinar script, then write the prompt. Take this script right here and um, see what you can come up with for a slide presentation. I think that will be the way to do it. And by the way, it's never going to be Bridget-like standard to do this kind of thing. But let me again quickly, I know we're wrapping up here, but just to give you a quick uh, concept of how crazy this is. Now, it's never going to be Bridget standard, but take a look at this that I did just a little while, a couple days. I'm working on this presentation to sell tax to more dentists, right? So I did all this research in here, which took me, 7 minutes, more or less, deep research in 7 minutes because the tool did the work, not me. So then I said, I need to build a slide presentation no more than 9 minutes long to discuss the need for dentists to express EEAT in their content. Okay. And then I put in what is attack, the whole explanation of it that we spent many hours figuring out. And then look how fast the tool comes up with a 9 slide deck punchy thing. Now, as soon as I looked at this, I'm hearing Bridget Callahan in my ear. There's way too many words in this presentation. This is not going to work. And of course, it's not Bridget caliber, but look at the concept. The ideas are really quite clever, right? And so now I can go back and I can take this and go to my person, which would be Bridget, and say, hey, I need something like this. Look at this EEAT. There's a whole thing on what it is. And then what a an entity looks like. It gives a graphic representation of what an entity thinking looks like. Again, I know there's way too many words, Bridget. I know, I know. But then it gave a tag.
Although Bridget did just say impressive.
Right? So, and here, and this is ChatGPT, man. P pillar page, sub-pillar pages, supporting articles. Look at that. A very solid explanation of how a TAC works. What's a pillar page? What's a supporting page? What does it look like? What are some examples? And then some growth, a little FOMO factor, and boom, how long does it take us to get this thing done, etc. So again, what we can do today as we're wrapping up is so much greater than what used to be just a few months ago. So please think in terms, the way I would like to think of it is think in terms of use the tool first. Huey?
You're dropping off. Your sound has been dropping off once in a while. Can you
Yeah,
hear
I
me?
know. Sorry, we had a technical issue over here. We got it resolved though. All I'm saying is use AI first, then think.
Yeah, for sure.
Let
Yes.
AI think for you, and then think after AI.
Yep.
That's my parting words for today.
Excellent. Okay. Do you have handy when our next meeting is? And folks, I will get this replay emailed out as a companion piece to the other piece as well.
Yes, our next meeting is next Wednesday, 21st. Wednesday, 21st, 3 p.m. Eastern. That's noon Pacific, 3 p.m. Eastern, noon Pacific. And we'll obviously send out invites for that. Bring your questions, all that kind of stuff, so that we can do some more super cool stuff.
Awesome. And I want to close with this. Somebody had asked me what was my favorite dad joke of 2026. And so originally I'm going to ask it to you
Of
because this is,
2026 or 2025?
I'm sorry, 2025. Sorry.
Okay. All right.
Misspoke there. Yes, this is my favorite joke of 2025. It's one of my favorite jokes of all time. And I remember you received this one rather favorably as well. Okay, but I'm going to say it to
Uh-oh.
you anyway.
Can't wait.
Originally, how much does a pirate pay for corn? You like this one. How much does a pirate pay for corn?
I can't remember.
A buccaneer.
God, okay. Whatever, man. All right.
Clever, right? Clever, 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 clever.
Buccaneer. Okay, far out. Thank you, everybody, for joining. Really appreciate your time and interest and helping us to continue to navigate this crazy world of AI, getting better and better. Whatever you're doing, just jump in. Start using the tools, and you're going to get some great results. All right,
Thank
Huey, thanks very much, brother. I'll talk to you a little bit later, and everybody else, we'll talk to you next week. Ciao for now. Bye, guys.